Good morning, fourth grade. So today I'm recording at my house, and so I am still in my pajamas, so you get to see me at my finest today. It is super raining outside. I'm so glad to have this Monday off and spend with my family. I made homemade chicken strips and fried shrimp and sausage and mashed potatoes and macaroni and all kinds of goodness for lunch today, and baby Barrett is taking a nap. So I thought I would take this time to go ahead and record. I hope you had a really good long weekend. We do have a busy week ahead. We've got a lot of things to learn and get done, and then you're going to have your second test on Friday. So I think you'll be fine. It's going to be everything that you know already. But today we're going to go ahead and get started on our reading story, and it is called Grandfather's Journey. And this is about a man who travels different to a new country and kind of his story. It's written in a biography sense, like to tell the story about someone, but it's written in a fiction. So let's find out about Grandfather's Journey. My grandfather was a young man when he left his home in Japan. He went to see the world. What do you think he wanted to see in that world? What do you think he was looking for or hoping for? What do you think about that as we keep reading? He wore European clothes for the first time and began his journey on a steamship. The Pacific Ocean astonished him. What do you think the word astonished means? I think astonished means like really wowed him. I want you to notice also the difference in his clothes that he's wearing here. Why do you think he chose to dress more like this than like this when he came to America? I think he probably wanted to dress like this because he wanted to look like a real American, and he was trying to maybe fit in, because sometimes we dress the way where we are so that we could fit in places. For 3 weeks he did not see land. When he finally appeared, it was the New World. He explored North America by train and riverboat, and often walked for days on end. That means he traveled a lot of different ways. Deserts with rocks like enormous sculptures amazed him. The endless farm fields reminded him of the ocean he had crossed. Look at this illustration here. How does that picture why do we think it made him think of an ocean? Why do you think that kind of looks like an ocean? Maybe as open as it is, and it's just wide open. You can't see anything for miles. Huge cities of factories and tall buildings bewildered and yet excited him. What do you think bewildered means? Looking at this picture and his face there, what do you think bewildered means? Don't look at my answer. I think it means he was confused. And if we use the context clues, like he was confused, but yet he was really excited about it. He marveled at the towering mountains and rivers as clear as the sky. He met people along the way. He shook hands with black men and white men, with yellow men and red men. Why do you think the author chose to tell us that he shook hands with all those colored people? We know there's no such thing as red men and yellow men. Why do you think he chose to use those words? I think he meant like that just goes to show that he shook hands with everybody. Like he liked everyone and was friendly with everyone. And the author's using those words to just give a good example of how he was friendly. The more he traveled, the more he longed to see new places and never thought of returning home. Why do you think he didn't want to go home? And do you think he maybe missed his home a little bit? He's young, exploring new land. He's having fun. Maybe he doesn't miss his home. But then it says, the more he traveled, the more he wanted. What do you think that means? Like the more he went new places, the more he wanted to see new places. If any of you have ever traveled, you know that you're always excited when you get to that place, and to go somewhere different, it's just so much fun. And so he was having that feeling also of going to a new place every time, and it was a lot of fun. So I think right now at his point in his life, he was having a lot of fun, and so he didn't want to go home. He didn't miss his home right now. Of all the places he visited, he liked California best. He loved strong sunlight there, the Sierra Mountains, the lonely seacoast. After a time, he returned to his village in Japan to marry his childhood sweetheart. Then he brought his bride to the new country. They made their home by the San Francisco Bay and had a baby girl. And his daughter grew. My grandfather began to think about his own childhood. He thought about his old friends. Who do we know is telling this story? Whose point of view is this, do you think? Yeah, I think it's like a grandson or a granddaughter because he keeps saying my grandfather. So the text right there proves he's talking about his grandfather. He remembered the mountains and rivers of his home. He surrounded himself with songbirds, but he could not forget. Finally, when his daughters were nearly grown, he could wait no more. He took his family and returned to his homeland. Now, as he's getting older, he's beginning to miss like his roots, so where he came from. What do you think his daughters are going to think? Like they've been brought up in this new land, in this new way, and now they're going to go to Japan, and it's going to be like a totally different way of living. Once again, he saw the mountains and rivers of his childhood. They were just as he had remembered them. We know that places like really change over time, but why do you think things didn't change here? Why do you think they maybe stayed the same? Think about that. Once again, he exchanged his stories and laughed with his old friends. But the village was not a place for a daughter from San Francisco, so my grandfather bought a house in a large city nearby. Using this illustration right here, using the picture to help me understand the text, why would this daughter not fit in a small village? Why do you think it wouldn't have been good for her to live in a small village? What do you see? Well, I see that she's kind of fancy. She looks like a city girl, not like Miss Wangler in her worn-out clothes and no makeup. She is a city girl, and so being out in the country, in the mountains, in the wild, in the open was maybe not for her. There, the young woman fell in love, married, and sometime later, I was born. When I was a small boy, my favorite weekend was a visit to my grandfather's house. He told me many stories about California. He raised warblers and silver eyes, but he could not forget the mountains and rivers of California. So, he planned a trip. But a war began, and bombs fell from the sky and scattered our lives like leaves in a storm. What do you think it means? It scattered their lives like a leaf in a storm. That's a simile right there. They're comparing their life being blown apart, like scattered. When the storm comes, the leaves just go everywhere. So they're comparing their lives being scattered everywhere to the storm and the leaves. When the war ended, there was nothing left of the city and of the house where my grandparents had lived. Let's make a prediction. What will he do now that his house is gone? What do you think is going to happen to Grandpa now that his house is gone? What is he going to do? And it's really good to make predictions as a reader because that means you're thinking about what might happen next and you're thinking about what's happening right then. So predictions are good. So they returned to the village where they had been children, but my grandfather never kept another songbird. The last time I saw him, my grandfather said that he longed to see California one more time. He never did. And when I was nearly grown, I left home and went to see California for myself. After a time, I came to love the land my grandfather had loved, and I stayed on until I had a daughter of my own. But I also missed the mountains and rivers of my childhood. I missed my old friends. So I return now and then I cannot steal the longing in my heart. When I cannot steal the longing in my heart. The funny thing is, the moment I'm in one country, I'm homesick for another. It says the moment I'm in one country, I'm homesick for another. What do you think that means? He says that he's homesick, like when he's in America, he misses Japan. But when he's in Japan, he misses America. And I think it's probably because they're different. They're very different in their own ways, and that's okay. But he misses each one. The author on this last page did not give us an illustration. He did over here, but not on this last page. I wonder what that illustration might look like if he was to give us one. And I wonder why he didn't. Like, he gave a picture on every single page except for that last one. And it makes me wonder why. Maybe he was wanting me to really use my imagination and think about what it looks like for that guy when he's traveling back and forth. Or maybe if I was going to draw it, I would have a picture of a home in Japan and a picture of his home in California or the new land. So that's kind of what I think. So let's talk about the message of this story. What did the author want me to learn from grandfather in his grandson's story? Well, it says traveling to another country helps you appreciate different people and different ways of life. Grandfather and his grandson, they traveled to different places, and they traveled and appreciated the different lives. And so they want us to understand that just because things are different in one place doesn't mean that it's bad. And I think it also really talks about what a home is. That home isn't just one place. That home can mean more than one thing. And so I think that he wanted us to understand that and learn from those characters, that home can mean more than one thing. I hope you enjoyed this book. You have a short reading with 3 questions to do today for some practice, and I will see you later.